welcome to Chuck's Diecast Car and Model Reviews. Today we are taking a look at the Ford GT as made by Maisto in 1/18 scale. This is, of course, what they call the Heritage Edition paint job on this in the Gulf colors, and I really do like this paint scheme. I originally bought my first model of this in it was like a metallic blue with a white stripe, and although it was decent, I had to snatch this one up when it came out because I do love the Gulf colors. It's a pretty good model. So let's go ahead and discuss the car itself before we actually get into looking at the model here. This is the second generation of Ford GT. The first one came out about 20 years ago and was a big seller at the time. I believe they made about 3,000 or 4,000 of them. Both this Ford GT and the GT from 20 years ago are among the only cars made in the United States in the 20th century, or excuse me, the 21st century, that actually sell for more than what they cost originally. So it is definitely a collector's type car. Of course, given the specs of the car, that's not a surprise. I mean, it's a carbon fiber chassis. It has 650 horsepower. It has a Le Mans class win under its belt, and it's just a neat looking car. It's not as much of a it doesn't look as much like an original Ford GT40 from the 60s as the 20-year-old edition does, but it is still has elements of that, and it is still a really, really cool looking car. So let's go ahead and take a look at the model itself. First of all, you can see here that the detail on the wheels is pretty decent. The brake rotors look a little bit small though. Nice that it has calipers, but the rotors do not turn with the wheels. These wheels here are I guess you'd call them the stock wheels, but this car did come with optional carbon fiber wheels, which makes it the second model of Ford that you could get from the factory with carbon fiber wheels after, I can't remember, the Ford GT500 or something like that. I can't remember which Mustang had carbon fiber wheels, and this was basically the first supercar that had carbon fiber wheels after the Koenigsegg. So it's definitely in some rarefied company there. So taking a look at the front here, you will see that the grille at the front is not mesh, it is just textured plastic. Unsurprising given the price point that it's at. Detail on the badging looks good. It is a decal and not an actual badge, and I think they did a good job in detailing the headlights there as well. And nice of them to actually include the opening front trunk, considering the fact that it is a completely useless front trunk unless you're carrying a box lunch or something like that. This is definitely a very cool aspect of this car, this whole front end. Taking a look at the rear of the car, the first thing you'll probably notice is the flying buttresses here, which are part of the aerodynamics of the car. Now this car has a twin turbocharged 3.5 liter V6, which is pretty unusual for a supercar. You know, usually they have at the very least a V8. V10s and V12s are more common, and they even have, of course, the W16 in the Bugattis there too. But one of the reasons they chose the V6 is the packaging. It's small and narrow, and it allowed them to build these tunnels in here for aerodynamics in order to get air undisturbed to this rear wing, and apparently it worked pretty well. Interesting thing about this V6 motor is that its block and heads I believe are the same as they have in the Ford F-150 EcoBoost V6. So if you have one of those, then you pretty much have sort of the same engine as this car. Taking a look at the engine, nice that Ford did have a trunk here, or so you can look at the engine as opposed to a lot of modern supercars. You'll see that V6 there. There's not too much detail, and I don't think there's too much to see in the real thing. But they did, put carbon fiber texture in here, so for what you can see, it looks pretty decent. Looking at the rear here, taillights look good. The dual rear exhaust looks pretty neat, and you can see the GT badging between the two exhausts and the Ford Performance license plate, which is a nice thing. And there's again the mesh texture in the back, and then you can see also the strakes for the diffuser back here as well. Taking a look in the passenger compartment here, first of all, these doors don't open nearly as wide as they do in the actual car. I'm sure that if they did, you'd barely be able to get into it. But you can see inside here, the detail is pretty good. Steering wheel has good representation of the buttons. You can see the carbon fiber texture on the dash. So looks pretty good in there. Taking a look from the other side, you can see again the center console looks good, and the instrumentation on the dash looks good. You can see a little bit better there from this side. You can even see on the passenger side dash, I believe at the top of the dash, that's the little pop-off panel for the passenger side airbag. So that's kind of impressive. So as it is, I mean, given the fact that I paid, what, $15 for this model or so, I think it's a pretty good model. And I'm pretty happy with it. So again, a nice job by Maisto in this model. They definitely have upped their game over the years, and this is definitely something that they can be proud of. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if so, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Have yourself a great day.